Wasting money on cures. Forgot how to fix myself. They say that time is free. Then why is it so precious? Oh, I'll say memories in my head, like Polaroids on walls. They remind you to look ahead. Time is running out. Time is running out. Lately I've lost my track. I've sailed the deeper seas, hoping to find something to bring back better times. Oh, I'll say memories in my head, like Polaroids on walls. They remind you to look ahead. But time is running out. 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 Time is running. Time is running out. But time is running out. What if my best days are over? They can't be over. They can't be over now. Time is running out. What if my best days are over? They can't be over now. Time is running out. Time is running out. Time is running out.
Good evening, everybody. It's John here from Tutor to You, welcoming you along to another GCSE Economics live stream. This is our last one before the Paper 1 exam tomorrow. We have reached that point. So we've got about 25 to 30 minutes of a mixture of fast-paced activities and a few tips and pieces of advice before your exam. I'm joined, as I have been throughout this entire academic year, by Nicky. Good evening to you, Nicky. You okay?
Good evening. I'm very excited about tomorrow.
Excited is an interesting word, isn't it? Now listen, time is precious, isn't it? We recognise the fact that you guys have got a lot of revision to do, and I'm wanting to crack on with that before you get through tomorrow. So we're going to get cracking with this in a moment or two. But let me just tell you what we are doing and why we're doing it tonight. We are concentrating most of the time on the numerical questions that could appear in Paper 1. And the reason for that is because, I mean, we could revise the entire specification, couldn't we, for Paper 1? But we know the area where the students have the biggest opportunity to make mistakes is with the numerical questions. So what we want to do is just take some numerical questions for you. Hopefully you've revised these already. Hopefully you're nice and prepared for this already. Let's do a few of these, or let's think about some of the topics behind the numerical questions, and just check that you're not going to make the errors that many other students will be making tomorrow. So hopefully it'll give you the chance of getting better marks. I think we're ready then. Nicky, should we get started?
Yeah, let's get started. Right, so we're going to kick off with 3 multiple choice questions this evening, and all 3 are on formulae, so you need to have your formulae at the front of your mind. Okay, so first of all, we're going to start with which of these is the correct formula for calculating productivity. Now, if I had £1 for every time a student got productivity mixed up with production, I would be a very, very rich lady. So productivity is the speed of output, is the efficiency, it's over time, whereas production is output. So let's have a think. What do we need? And of course, what are we talking about here? We're talking about speed of output. So I've got loads of answers coming in. B, B, B. Lots and lots of answers coming in. Output divided by the number of workers. You're absolutely right. It's output per time period over the number of workers is the answer to our first question. Well done, all those people who have already contributed. Fantastic. Right, second question. Which of these is the correct formula for calculating total costs? So we're looking for the formula for total costs. Charlie's in, Jasmine's in, everybody's coming in with the correct answer. The correct answer is, in fact, A. Well done. You have to be very careful because D is the distractor. It's nearly right. D would give us average cost. When you add together fixed costs and variable costs and divide it by quantity, you get average. The average figure. An average cost is, on average, how much does it cost us to produce this output? You'll need to think about that in a later question, so that's why I'm labouring that point. So well done, lots and lots of perfect answers. Flying start. Well done, guys. Which of these, question 3, is the correct formula for calculating average revenue? So here again, think about what I just said. We want average revenue. So on average, how much does each product sold actually contribute, give to us? So I'm getting lots of answers. I'm getting some A's in, but I'm getting some D's in, some more A's. Be careful. Total revenue times quantity sold. That's, just have a think. Is that really the right answer? Remember what I was just saying about when you want an average figure, you divide by quantity. So hopefully, well done, Thomas, Jasmine, another Thomas, Charlie, Joshua, Rose. Fabulous. You're all getting the right answer. Tegan, well done. Answer is D, total revenue. So all the money coming into the business divided by the number of units sold. Fantastic start. Well done.
It is fantastic. Wonderful to see so many answers. And there's a really good example, I think, Nicky, of one of those questions with a distractor in it. So many people might have read through that really, really quickly and gone with answer A, and then with a little bit more thought. We'll come back to that thought a little bit later on. Thank you so much, Nicky. We'll move on and we'll talk about percentage changes. So I am going to link this into elasticity in a few moments because it's relevant, but possibly the most common question you might get, which is a general numerical question within your exam, will be a percentage change. Now, you'll be doing loads of that as part of your GCSE maths probably, but it's still amazing how many students get it wrong. And they get it wrong very much in any kind of multi-choice kind of question because of those distractors and getting their formula up and the denominator and denominator the wrong way around. So the rule you should be applying when you're ever calculating percentage changes is there up on the screen. Make sure you always divide by the original. Now, you might work out the top part in slightly different ways. It may be given to you. You may have to calculate it, the new figure minus the original. But the key thing is to make sure that the original is on the bottom part of our equation and not on the top. So let's have a go at that. Let's just try one of those really, really quick. I'm going to put a clock on the screen for you and have a go at this one. Now, these numbers, by the way, are not real, but they're not far off. They're ballpark numbers. In 2020, the average house price in the UK was £240,000. Like I say, it's an approximate change to make the question slightly more straightforward. By 2025, the average price had risen to 300,000. What is the percentage increase in house prices in the UK between 20 and 25? I'm looking down at the answers that are firing in. I haven't even started my clock. I will put the clock on while I'll allow a few others to have a go. And a good point I should make here is don't forget to put your units into your answers. It's I'm looking at some of the answers here, lots and lots of answers, but maybe not with the units in there. So don't forget that one. Trying to see if I've got anybody wrong so far. This is probably one of those that you can maybe work out in your head. The maths is not too difficult. The recommendation, of course, is always in your exam. Don't rely so much on your head, because you'll be nervous. But hey, lots of you coming in with the correct answer. Let's just give the clock a few more seconds to run through to allow everybody to have a go at this if they're making that calculation. Thank you, Ashwin. Thank you, Bradley. Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Marley. Thank you, Erin. Tegan, Joshua, Janine, Bethany. Thank you all for your answers. You've all gone with 25%. Absolutely right, 25%. So it's that whole point, isn't it, about making sure that we always use the original at the bottom. So in this case, the original was £240,000. 300,000 minus 240,000 gives us 200. Then divide that all by 240,000. 60,000 is our final figure, divided by 240,000. Yes, that gives us 0.25. Multiply that by 100 to give ourselves 25%. And my point before about not forgetting our units, in this case it's a percentage question, you'll see you'll easily lose a mark if you don't put the correct units in, so just be careful on that one. Let's relate that then back to elasticities, because of all the topics on paper one you're most likely to be asked to do a calculation on, it is probably elasticities. We did a whole live stream, Nicky and I, over the Easter holiday on elasticity, and that's still available if you wanted to have another quick look at the questions that we asked in that one as a way of testing it. The slide I've got on the screen just reminds you what elasticities are. Elasticities are measuring responsiveness. In the case of price elasticity demand, it's measuring the responsiveness of quantity demanded, how much that changes following a change in price. And with price elasticity supply, responsiveness of quantity supplied following a change in price. And there's our two calculations along the bottom. I'm hoping those are very clearly registered in your head, and you're using whatever technique you want to use to remember what's on the top and what's on the bottom of those calculations. So let's have a go. I'm going to give you two. Have a look at this first one. Calculate the price elasticity demand for good Y when following an increase in the price by 8%, there's a fall in quantity demanded by 5%. There we go. My clock has started. Quick little bit of calculations required there. Don't forget. Now remember, elasticity doesn't have a unit. The elasticity number is a number by itself. So again, a common mistake is to start using a percentage as part of an elasticity, but whether it's a minus or negative number is significant here. So don't forget that point, please. 30 seconds gone, giving you a few more seconds to do that. We're going to do another one in a moment, which will be slightly more complex. So let's see how we're doing here. Yeah, I think you've nailed this one as well. You've remembered the formula, remembered what goes on the top, what goes on the bottom. Remember to include your plus or your minus. Yeah, we're going there. We're getting there. I'll just let the clock run out. Brilliant. Thank you again, Janine, Bradley, Jasmine, Ben, Bethany, Joshua, Charlie, Ashwin. Lots of really good responses there, and primarily coming in with the correct answer, a minus. It's a minus number. Price elasticity demands almost always, certainly from the point of view GCSE economics, will be a minus number. When one goes up, the other one goes down, and vice versa. We can also make sure that we remind our examiner we know what the significance of the number. The number is under 1, so that we know it's an inelastic price elasticity of demand. And yes, there's our percentage change, -5 over +8. Let's try another one, slightly more complex. Have a look at this one. Good Z had an increase in price. Well, originally it was £5 and 100 units were sold. When its price rose to 6, the quantity supplied of good Z's increased to 150. Now you've got to do a bit more calculations this one, so just take your time. You've got a full minute to have a go at this one. So you've got to work out the change in quantity supplied, and you've got to work out the change in price. You've got to do 2 initial calculations here before then we work out our price elasticity of supply. Yeah, taking a little bit more time, so the answers aren't coming in quite so quickly. Keep going. We're starting to get the answers now. Yeah, just a little bit more time required. It's a price elasticity of supply, a PES number. Minus, plus, don't forget to remember those things in your elasticity calculations. Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Jasmine. Thank you, Musa. Thank you, Bethany. A few more answers coming in there. A little bit more tight in terms of the time that you have for that one. But yeah, well done. Most of you are getting 2.5. It is elastic. And with supply, PES, we know generally the number is going to be a positive one. Plus on either side, or minus and minus. And there we go. So our little calculation, percentage change in price, change of £1, which is a 20% change in price. 50% change in our quantity supplied, and so 50 over 20 gives us 2.5. Well done. So the key thing, two key things there, remember with any kind of percentage change calculation to always have the original figure on the bottom of your calculation. When it comes to your elasticities, make sure you know your actual formula, but don't forget the plus or minus on those. Good stuff, Nicky. Students doing very well still. Shall we keep going?
Excellent. Yes, definitely. Nice, accurate answers, aren't they? Fabulous.
Wonderful.
Right, now, my multiple choice questions earlier were all knowledge. These are application. So we're going to ask you to apply figures and do some thinking about some figures. Look at this demand and supply schedule for a firm. What will be the excess supply in units if the price was set at £4 per item? So I am straight in with saying 20. Now that wouldn't get you very far in the exam. You've got to tell me which is the right answer. So tell me, Jasmine's come in with A and Janine's come in with A, saying 20. Now, if you're finding this straightforward and you're thinking, oh, that's easy, I want you to then have a think, a little extension. Is that going to, if you saw that on a diagram, is that going to be above the market price or below? Just put above or below in your answers, because you're all getting this absolutely right. You're looking along the table and the row where it's £4. You're saying quantity demanded is 30 and quantity supplied is 50. So you can see that there is excess supply of 20. Is it going to be above or below? Is that price of £4? So Mystique says above. Thomas says above. What are we all thinking? Is that a little bit more thinking about it? All you have to do is, don't panic about this question, is just draw it and then look, where does supply exceed demand? And you're absolutely spot on. It's above the market equilibrium, and the answer was 20. Well done. Let's have a look at question number 2 in this section. Look at the table below. What is the average total cost at an output of 4 units? So we're looking for the average total cost at output 4 units. So just a little bit of a help here. The third column, variable costs, that is total variable costs. Just have an eye out for this kind of thing, because we don't want you thinking that it would be very obvious in the exam if that was variable cost per unit. In this case, it's total variable costs. So we're pulling on some information from the first multiple choice, thinking about, well, how do we get total cost? And then we're thinking about, well, how do we get average total cost? And then we're having to work with the figures on the table. What do we think? I've got some answers coming in. I've got some C's and some D's coming in. Excuse me. And there seems to be a mixture of both. Let's have a look at it. So at output 4, fixed costs are 30, variable costs, total variable costs are 50. Add them together. So your total cost is 80. Divide your total cost by the output. So 80 divided by 4. And that will give us the answer of D. So the answer is D in this case. That last column, total revenue, is irrelevant. That might happen. So you really need your wits about you. Okay, well done to those of you who got that answer. That's excellent. Right, now another little bit of imagination needed here, thinking about this graph. Look at this supply curve for a firm producing good Y. Assuming the firm sold any products that it produced, what would be its total revenue if it charged £3 for good Y? So we need to have a think about this. If the price is £3, imagine on that graph you've got a £3, a line across from £3. What is the output? Work downwards to find the quantity. Well done, Jasmine, you're spot on. It's 30,000 would be the quantity, and that has to be times by £3 per unit. What's the answer? We're all getting lots and lots of fantastic correct answers. Answer is £90,000. Well done, brilliant. Spot on. You are really good tonight.
Yeah, very, very, very good responses. Right, let's do a few more calculations, shall we? A couple more calculations. Again, thinking about percentages and working out how we apply those to individual questions. Now, if Nicky borrows £500 and has to pay the loan back within 1 year at an interest rate of 4%, how much will Nicky repay? So a little bit of calculation, but also some understanding of what is meant by interest rates here. So that's often how numerical questions get used in your exams. They're applying your understanding of what a term means to a particular question. I've started my clock. Probably not going to need it for many of you who are working out. Now, there's a place where lots of students could make an error here. So just be careful. I'm looking at the chat window and we're primarily getting it correct, but just be really careful you don't make an error. Lots of students will look at the 4%, calculate 4% of 500 and give that as the answer. The question asks, how much will Nicky repay? Well done to those of you getting this spot on, which is to make sure you fully answer the question. Don't forget your units as well. Just back to you on that one. Joshua, Bradley, Janine, Bethany, Izzy, Ayol Teki, Izzy, Elsa, Charlie, Janine as well, and just Mystique has got in there as well, and Mystique put in the units right at the end. Well done. So put in deliberately that one. So another really quick percentage change question. Or percentage question. Working out 4% of 500 is not too difficult. Multiply our 500 by 0.04. But so many students will forget to finish that question off and lose a mark by not adding it to the original amount. That is the amount that needs to be paid back. Okay, let's try another one. Jon earned £20,000 in 2024 as basic income. He also earned £10,000 in commission. Jon ended up paying 20% in income tax on his entire income. What was Jon's net take-home pay? So again, applying some numeracy, in this case fairly easy numeracy, but applying it to your understanding of gross pay and net pay, your understanding of basic income, commission. Ignore the fact that in reality, virtually everybody in the UK doesn't pay income tax on the first part of their income. Let's ignore that for the sake of this question. Let's apply 20% income tax on their entire income to get our overall answer. Wow, look at this. Yeah, lots. Izzy, Joshua, Ayol Tekel, apologies if I got that name wrong, Bradley again, some Mystique, all coming in with really good answers. So yeah, do you understand what gross pay and net pay means? Again, very popular question in the GCSE economics exam, using numeracy to test your understanding. £24,000 is what most of you are coming in with, and that is absolutely right. So we work out our gross pay, we add our basic income to our commission, that gives us £30,000. We work out 20% of £30,000, which is £6,000. Take that off our gross pay to get our net pay. It's wonderful, wonderful stuff. So on to a few more questions here. I think we're going bubble quiz though, aren't we, for the last few questions here, Nicky?
We are, we are. And I love the bubble quiz. So remember, it's a little bit like a multiple choice, but here it could be not just one answer that's correct. It could be two, or it could be three, it could be all four, it could be none. So have a think through how many are right, and then give me the answers in the form of B and D, or A, B, and C, or something like that in the chat box. Okay, so building on what John was just working on with that calculation. So which of these would be deducted from gross pay to calculate net pay? So as John said, this is such a common question and it comes up a lot. We're just double checking you really understand the difference between gross pay and net pay. So Elsa's come straight in with C and D, Jasmine C and D, Bethany C and D. So you're thinking, yes, we'll take off income tax because I never see that in my pay at the end of the month. National insurance is just another name for a type of tax that comes off my pay. So lots of people are just saying C and D. Charlie, interestingly, you've included pension contributions. And Bethany, yes, you've realised, yes, actually, you're right. Pension contributions disappear from my pay as well. It's not mortgage repayments because it's my choice whether I take the mortgage or not. But pensions, I'm opted into pension schemes by my employers unless I choose to actively opt out. So we would include that in the deduction from gross pay when getting to net pay. Okay, brilliant. I'm glad we did that question. That's just sorted that out. Well done. Okay, now going back to my very first question about productivity. Which of these may be used to calculate productivity? So earlier I asked you about what is the formula. I emphasized the difference between productivity and production, and I said productivity is over time. Okay, so let's see if that helps you. What is it? So Charlie's coming with A, B, C, and D. Elsa says all of them. Bethany says all of them. Let's have a look at the answer, please, John. You're right, it's all of them. And I really want to draw your attention to that last one because you can have capital productivity or you can have labour productivity, and you could be asked about either of them. So it's well worth remembering that productivity is not just about workers, it might be about actually machines as well. So well done. And it can be per hour, per minute, per year, per week, any time frame. Well done. Brilliant. Let's have a look at the last of my bubbles tonight. Which of these could receive or pay interest? So a little bit of financial economics now for me to end my last question on this evening. Which of these could receive or pay interest? What do you think? Now, some of those are more obvious than others. James is saying A, B, and C. Let's have a look and see if anyone else is joining James. I think there's quite a few more who are joining us and joining in with thinking that. What about shares? Do they pay or receive interest? What do they pay or receive? Elsa saying A, B, C. You're right. You're spot on. Bank loans, savings accounts, and credit card repayments all either pay or receive or charge interest, but shares, if you've got share value, well, you might be lucky and get a dividend payout, but that isn't, interest is not part of shares. Well done, guys. You're
Brilliant.
spot on.
Wonderful. Thank you. And thanks, Nicky, for those questions. Our last little section here, our last little bit is some real quick exam tips going into paper one tomorrow. I'm hoping all of these have been said to you in the past by your teachers, but let's just in our head get these going round there so that we are ready for tomorrow and ready to do our very best. We've mentioned throughout tonight, because we've used so many multi-choice questions as part of this of this live stream. We've talked about the distractors. So just a reminder to you, and this applies to lots of subjects, of course, that when they're working out multi-choice questions to ask you. They don't come up with 3 incorrect answers which are way out of there. They attempt to put in some questions which are potentially correct, and that's particularly true of any kind of calculation one, where they might use the numbers that are involved in the question, but then flip them upside down when they come to give you an answer. Now, a quick tip about the command words as well. It may be obvious to you from the mark that's assigned to each question what is being tested, but clearly the command word is the thing that gives you the most information. And if you see the word analyze or evaluate or assess, sometimes the word explain, it means that you've got to cover all 3 of the assessment objectives, AO1, 2 and 3. So look at your command word, remind yourself exactly what you think is being tested before you go about answering your questions. That's a quick one, quick tip for you. Diagrams we've been including. We've had 1 or 2 diagrams today. You may have to draw a diagram. You probably get asked a question where it requires you to draw a diagram. Here's our mnemonic. You may have seen it before. To ace your diagrams, make sure you ace the diagrams. And by that we mean make sure you label your axes, your curves. Sometimes the curves are straight lines, of course, but let's call them curves in economics. Axes, curves, and then equilibrium, where your curves or your lines are crossing. Use a ruler. Use a ruler. Calculations. Use a sense check. This is something we say to students quite regularly. They make a calculation, then they're not 100% sure whether they got it right or wrong. Just have a look at the question, and does the answer that you've given make sense based upon on the question that's been put in front of you? The PED questions, for example, if you looked at the percentage changes and looked at them, you should get an idea of whether one is greater than the other, and therefore whether it's a figure above 1 or below 1, and that at least would give you an indication of whether some of the answers that have been given to you in a multi-choice question might be wrong. Application. Economics is a real world subject, so application is a really key part of doing well, particularly in those higher mark questions. What application means is, as well as knowing the right topic to apply to the question, sometimes it's explicitly given to you, but sometimes it's inferred and you've got to make a judgment about which topic is being covered. But when we're using real life examples, let's make sure that we use them in a context. So have a look at my suggestion there, my example. A supermarket can benefit from purchasing economies of scale. I haven't finished my sentence off like that. I've then said, and here's my example, such as bulk buying of vegetables. Now I've got an example that applies specifically to supermarkets, so the examiner can see that I'm using some application which is in context. So try and get your application into the context of the question that has been presented to you. Okay, what else have we got? Let's have a look at this one. If you are going to draw your own diagram, which you may decide to do as part of the longer answer questions, make sure you refer to it as part of your answer. So don't draw a diagram. When we're analysing or evaluating, you're bringing in your own diagram, make sure you refer to it, particularly any kind of movement within that diagram. That way, the examiner knows exactly what you're talking about. And then there's that general tip about connective language, and a few little tips for you there. If we are doing some analysis, we may like to use words like because, leading to, therefore, signposting to our exam that what we're about to write is a piece of analysis. And then evaluation, we could be using the word such as however, and giving an alternative, or it depends on, suggesting to the examiner we understand where its value is in comparison to another one. Listen, that's our little quick bunch of exam tips for you. Hopefully you've found that useful. If you've not watched one of these live streams before, we've been using a PowerPoint, Nicky and I, and that PowerPoint will be available to you as soon as I press the finish button in a moment or two's time. So if any of those tips or if any of those questions you want to go through again, download that PowerPoint and have a read through that. We've got there though, Nicky, we've got to the end. I can see lots of positive comments coming in, lots of yes. People continuing to think about their exam tomorrow, which is wonderful to see. We have come to the end of the live stream, and you guys have got plenty of things you need to be doing and preparing for tomorrow. So all that Nicky and I can say to you is, first of all, thank you for participating today, but the very, very best of luck with tomorrow. We're the suggestion, Nicky, from the people watching tonight is there's going to be some really good grades out there from lots of students. Definitely. Last little thing to say before we go, though, we're continuing with the live streams for paper 2, so we're back on Thursday at 5 o'clock, and then this time next week, Tuesday 5 o'clock again, for 2 further live streams related to paper 2. We would love to see you all there. So good luck tomorrow. Hopefully see you Thursday. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.